FRANCESFOX, and I am a trained government remote viewer. And I get a lot of interesting information that basically, when you add it together with whatever evidence you have of manifestation on the physical dimension, you can make better choices. I also ran a business successfully for 30 years. It's still alive and very well. I do things with very strong foundations. I have a degree in political science, and right now I'm under self-imposed house arrest until the Cuban cartel and all the sex trafficking people get scared enough that they will stop beating up on people that have information about them. I'm getting a little tired. I need to go to the dentist. I'm getting my hands and my nails done, a mani-pedi. I can wait. But other things I really need to get out there. Also, my Tesla charger is not working. So I wanted to get an extension. I don't know what to do about it. These are very simple things for the rest of you, not simple for me. I can tell you what's happening in another galaxy, but something that's right in front of my front door, I get completely useless. Anyway, so if I have to run out of here like a bat out of hell, I'm going to have an electric car without a charge. I know I should not be talking about me. So let's go ahead and get on to the only reason that you're here. You want this extra information. And you always have to know that I would not do this unless these were not principles and laws and information that you should be applying to yourself, your life, your home, your job. Everything I'm sketching on these maps could be sketched on your house, on your office, on that new property that you want to buy. Why on earth are you buying it without consulting with somebody like me? You could be buying an ancient Indian burial ground and do like we did in this country, which is build our capital on top of Mother Nature's burial ground, which is a swamp. If you look at the movies having to do with spirits, there are two prime locations: cemeteries and swamps. Washington, D.C. is built on top of a swamp, but I'm not going to waste your time with that. White people have basically, the population of white people have basically collapsed in the planet. I want to know if those white people are in well-to-do areas compared to most of the other areas, because the problem is that well-to-do people that have money and that are modern, they have a lot of electronic equipment, each one of which radiates microwave. So the more money you have, the more equipment you have, the more you're radiated and the more you're getting dumbed down. And you may continue physically operational, but your wisdom completely gone. Sexuality completely gone. Why? Radiation is the fire element. Where you produce children is 2 inches below your belly button. That's where it's conception, and that's where the mother holds the child, waiting for it to time to be born. That channels the water element in human beings. Radiation is fire. Fire evaporates water. Is anybody listening to me? You should buy my book. It's called Sex. We need to figure this out because you guys have not figured it out. What can I tell you? I'm not getting hung up on that anymore. I got some interesting information. You know that the Vatican would want me dead, but I think they gave up on the whole. They literally killed 2 people in the process. In two of their satanic rituals. They're just working on my third eye. So that your third eye allows you to see, but it has a lot to do with memory. And from what I'm reading, they don't want me to remember something real bad. They don't want me to remember. Now, I was in the Opelika Air Force Base when the Vatican and the CIA brought in what would be at that point the largest sex trafficking operation in the history of the planet, at least this side of the planet. The 16,000 kids that were brought over from Cuba. I was there. That's where I met my control, the guy who was going to end up being my handler for 30 years. That's where they prepared the Bay of Pigs. Now, the Vatican had set this up with the CIA. Is that what they don't want me to remember? Well, you know what? I remember. Okay, I'm going to do the 3 maps and then we're going to be finished. Let's do the Caribbean because it's the one that's behind me. So let's do that one. The Dominican Republic, I've got a circle around the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and that is a good portal. And I do not expect anybody to believe a word out of my mouth. But if you are bright, you will kind of have some instincts and kind of know that I'm not lying, or at least I don't think I'm lying, because some people lie, but they don't really know that they don't have the truth. When I put something like this here, like this is a good portal, I know your reactions. Haiti, how is that possible? The Dominican Republic. I have to give you information. I have to tell you that my control and my handlers, they didn't do what you're doing right now. What? That's not possible. They didn't do that. They wanted accurate information. This is in the other dimensions. They may not know it yet. That's why they get the information from the other dimensions, because that's where cause resides, and that's what's going to manifest. So I'm telling you what I'm seeing, knowing that it's just not going to fit. No, it doesn't fit into your very narrow lens. I want you to widen your lens and just hold that information. You don't have to do anything about it. You don't even have to tell anybody, but just hold it. It happens coincidentally to match something I said years ago that I didn't think was, how's that possible? But I just said it and I let it stay there. I know I wasn't lying. That the Dominican Republic and Dominicans are going to be like stewardesses and stewards, helping people to move into the next frequency, which you call the ascension process, in which in the Bible, they say it's when God came down, there are 2 women at the well, and God takes one. So that was years ago. That was probably 15 years ago. And then now I draw this map, and we got a circle around Haiti and the Dominican Republic. It's a good portal. Okay. Cuba's completely cursed with black magic. I think, Trump, you really need to pay attention to Cuba. I think you need to pay attention to who's been in charge of Guantanamo Bay. Okay? I think you need to pay a lot of attention. Remember that Hurricane Melissa was weaponized to take down Cuba so that the cartels could operate from there. Well, I don't think it didn't take down Cuba. My group, we did a lot of reducing of the fire of the air element, and we added a lot of earth. I don't need to go into the details. So it did not totally wipe out Cuba. But look, all those curses are for a reason. And all of those cartels have connections with the Cuban mafia, the Cuban cartel. And the Cuban cartel don't know where they're going to be able to hide from you, Trump. They wanted to go to Spain, but I think Spain has extradition. They don't like the islands because the islands have, for them, too many black people. They're very prejudiced and very uppity. And I don't know where they plan on going. I know some want to move to Ocala, which is kind of northern Florida. So we don't want them to move there because I want to get a hobby farm there. But lots going on with Cuba having to do with the cartels looking where are they going to do business from. I'm not sure, Trump, that they're going to be able to do business with what you're doing, but whatever. I'm just giving information. All the swirling green lines mean there's an awful lot of healing going on in the whole Caribbean. And I'll show you the map of the United States in a minute, and also Venezuela. Venezuela's also having a lot of heart and healing. The next map I'll show you, it'll give you more information. Those jaggedy black lines above Venezuela are a frequency. It's the frequency of depression. And here's the trick. All that swirling is in pink, and it's the heart chakra, and it's a grounding of love. but there is the frequency of depression. Makes sense. It's been over 20 years with the Maduro thing. And if you look at the news, you don't know which end is up. You don't, I mean, if you're Venezuelan, you're sitting there sometimes without electricity, a lot of times without internet. You're like, okay, so, how much longer will this be? The elections took a whole year. And now, how long will it take to finish with this? So they're depressed. But the Caribbean above Venezuela has red frequency, which is the anger, which is what's being battled out there with the boats, etc. So that makes sense. We don't see the Galactic Federation protection in either the United States or Venezuela. That does not mean that the protection is not there. I cannot draw everything on a map. There's too many things. I only can see, and then go ahead and draw what's important. And I don't leave things out. Like I didn't leave out the thing about the Dominican Republic, knowing that most of you are going, she must like them or have somebody from. No, no. Let's go to the United States. Okay, so you know what? I was trying to figure out why I got ill-humored because I've been feeling really good. I ran out of cannabis about 2 weeks ago. I started back on it yesterday. My body feels like $1 million. And I could feel late yesterday, all through the night, how parts of my body, I could feel little releases like muscles that had gotten tense. Cannabis reduces fire, and it's honestly a godsend at this point. And I'm not the only one that says it. According to the masters, cannabis has been around for 5,000 years, but it's a godsend now because I'm not sure we've ever had this much extra fire on the planet, and cannabis is a female plant that puts out fire. I can tell you that's a big difference. So why did I say, why am I ill-humored? Somebody is ill-humored and they're directing the ill humor at me, and we're going to sketch it right now and we will find out who that is. And I suspect I know who it is because it has to do with this chat. So somebody who wants me to shut up, and I ordered food, and I didn't check before I ordered food, and everything I have, the Cuban mafia is listening in, looking at, they're in my email, they're all over the place. Trump, still. So I ordered, and when I checked out the map, when it was going to get delivered, there was one delivery before me, that's fine. But the delivery was in a very Cuban area where I know a lot of the Cuban mafiosos have their homes and the people that work with them, whatever. And they stayed there longer than it takes because they have the map and you can track the car. You guys all know that. That's pretty new to me. All of you know that. And the car was there forever. So my food was in their hands for a little bit. I also have a video of the car and a photograph of the bottom half of the guy. I'm not good at that stuff. They're cranky, which is my whole point. They're cranky because they could tell from the note that I left, because I left them a note saying, oh, you're right. I know people in that neighborhood. You're right at the house of my friend. So that they would know. I'd love to be able to jerk them around more because of what they've done, which is a lot more than joking around. They killed my first pregnancy and kidnapped my son when he was 10 days old. So I am smiling, but I don't know why they're still loose. Okay, where were we going? The United States map. Anyway, back to teaching you. If you notice that you're like, okay, and then you fell into a depression or something landed on you, that is literal. No, in Spanish, caí en una depresión. I fell into a depression. No, me cayó tal cosa. It landed on me. I feel really down. Oh God, it's everything. So they are upset because they knew from the note that I left him, the Uber guy, and the way I talked to him when he delivered the food, that I knew exactly what they were doing. So they're focused on how much I was going to say in this chat. So there's a vector from them coming from them towards me, And then all of a sudden I went from I finally got back to doing my chats in English, which YouTube took down. Basically, they're not going to put, I'm not sure that, I don't think they're going to put any more of my chats up in my YouTube English. They don't like all this information. At least I don't think they do, because why on earth? They don't have a legitimate reason. Okay, so I'm teaching you that when you feel bad, most of the time it's not you, it's coming from someplace else. The stronger your aura is, and the more you have contact with nature, and the less radiation you have around you, then you can be who you are, rather than a little pretzel changed by all the people that are cranky at you, etc. Which brings me to something that I didn't know if I was going to say or not, but I'm going to say it. Trump, I had an image of you today and I did not like what I saw. You were not so mobile. When I checked, somebody did this to your coccyx. They cut it. Remember, the coccyx is the part in the Lord's Prayer. It doesn't say deliver us from evil. It says help us to be in the present, which means grounded, rooted. And the last part of our spine is in the shape of an arrow, and that is supposed to be very rooted in the earth element. I'm sure a lot of other people do it on the planet, but the Cuban cartel, and I'm sure that Epstein and all those guys did it also. They have a practice, and I believe the fee used to be, I don't know what it is now, $20,000, and you pay somebody. A lot of the Cuban cartel paid for it in Cuba, for them to stabilize your coccyx by taking mind streams from there. And in the other dimensions, there's no space and time and distance. Okay, Elon, are you listening? The whole miles with your missiles, there's another way out of that. It's not a distance thing. So they take your coccyx and mind strings that channel your mind, and they attach it to huge trees in a natural setting, and then they kind of take care of it to make sure nothing happens, an earthquake moving the stones and all the rest of it. That creates a stability to where it doesn't really matter what happens, they can't take you down. Now, that's what I'm sure. I had never checked. I'll check right now. Give me a second. Actually, I just checked. Fidel Castro had several of those done, one in each, like the Indian medicine wheel, east, west, south, north, front and back. He had all of those done having to do with his coccyx. In other words, instead of just doing four corners, he did the others that I just mentioned, at which time he would have been straight as an arrow and nobody would be able to take him down. And that's exactly what happened. So in your case, Trump, somebody went rakata and they cut it and it's like dangling. But that's not what I saw. What I saw this morning, and I wasn't thinking about you, I was feeling guilty that I haven't done the chat, because I know a lot of people across the planet, especially people in power, look at what it is that I put there, and they're learning also, which is the whole point. The whole point is not for this side to win against that side, it's for everybody to learn and then go, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have handled it differently, or I thought I was being secretive and now whatever. So that needs to be repaired, because the image that I saw was of you not operational, having to do with the lower part of your body. So, okay, so let's go with a map of the United States. And I never know what to do with information like that. So basically, maybe I shouldn't have said that. That's fixable. So here is the United States. At the top, it says Canada's cursed. We knew that Canada was flatlined. So, and when you're that down, who would even bother cursing Canada? I have no idea. On this map, the important thing to note is that Kansas is a problem. Kansas is the problem. Kansas is where they have the center of the mind control. Department of the Army, Division of Psychological Warfare is where it started in the 40s, before the war ended. But that's in Kansas. Maybe that's it. I have no idea. But this map is saying pretty loud, Kansas is the problem. You have a big heart in the United States, but you have a lot of tears. That makes sense. We're in the part of the battle between different groups. Okay, and then you have the part of Texas that Elon is on is green, heart chakra, great. All of Florida looks great. And the Caribbean has all the pyramids. So this is all stable. We do not see, I did not see the Merkaba, but that doesn't mean it's not there. What it means is that everything else that I sketched is more important than the Merkaba. I'm going to open up a chat later on, and we're having to do with, but look how interesting. You have Venezuela. That's front and center and everything. These wavy lines are frequencies. Eventually, if you have that long enough, the frequency of the country or the person changes. And it is your frequency that determines everything because of the law of attraction. What I sketched makes sense, that everybody in Venezuela, they don't feel like they have free will. I mean, the person who's determining what's going to happen there is Trump, which is why the next priest prize should go to him. But it's not good when you don't feel like you're master of your destiny. And the people in Venezuela, I don't think, can feel that. That's nobody's fault. This is a transition. But the whole thing with the frequencies, which have to do with emotions. So the frequency in Venezuela, the lines are black because they're depressed. But in the Caribbean above them, the lines are red because they're angry. Either they're angry because they think the United States is going to invade, or they're angry because the United States didn't invade. But if it's long enough in that dimension where those frequencies are, then it creates that reality. And held emotions become toxic, held negative emotions become toxic, and they're the basis for disease and for portals and for all sorts of other things. So that's going to be it. I think there's an awful lot of really positive things happening across the board. I think the ascension process, that this part of it completed on the 18th of November, it's a huge difference for me and for a lot of people. Everything feels so much easier. And it's like it's not a question of can I be positive about the future? It's like, yeah. Whereas before it was such a heaviness. So I think there's another ascension frequency shift, which will be like an ascension process for a lot of people. An ascension for a lot of people is on the 17th of July. I have no idea why that date. I don't know why I got that. And I think I cleared from myself a huge trauma from prior to birth in utero. And it has created a wonderful ratcheting up of my frequency, also my ability to see, because I didn't have anything happen to me. I was in utero. It didn't happen to my mother either. She was holding me in utero, but it was something I witnessed, I saw. So I had a trauma that registered in my third eye in a very big way. Why am I giving you all these details? Because that was, I think, 2 or 3 days ago, I did the mantra and I cleared that trauma, whatever I was holding of it with the mind streams. And then 2 days ago, I kind of went like this in the other dimension, and I plucked out a spirit, but just the eye of consciousness of a spirit that was like this big, because I dealt with the trauma. All of you that really think that you should leave emotions at the door when it comes to business, you just need to know that that does not work, because you are an assemblage of bodies. And even if somebody kicks you out of the physical body that you own and you become a zombie, you're still part of that assemblage. So whatever happened, you carry with you. Like I say, your aura is like a garbage can, a garbage bag. And it doesn't matter where you go, you're taking it with you. So you need to deal with that stuff. And in utero, you wouldn't even know. So I think you should start asking, did anything god awful happen to my mother? Or did she have to go to something god awful before I was born? Because you will have gone through it with her. And let's go to applying like the law of attraction, having to do with something god awful. When 9/11 happened and the whole thing was supposedly very associated with Afghanistan, I looked into Afghanistan, not having to do with 9/11, just Afghanistan, the endless wars. Afghanistan is congested. The aura of Afghanistan is congested with the images and the emotions and the spirits associated with war. It was never cleared. So it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better because of the law of attraction. Okay, so apply that to yourself, to your home, to something that you're doing. And it doesn't mean that you have to give up on something. It means you have to clear it, purify it, take care of it. Take care of it? No. You have to purify it. Whatever is left in you that's negative because of that you went through, you got to let it go. No. Yes, your mind strings have to let it go. Your mind streams are your cannabinoid receptors. But you don't, it's not just let it go, because they don't. Your mind streams have 5 fingers at the end. Cannabinoid receptors have 5 fingers at the end. They grab onto stuff. So you go, oh yeah, I'm going to let it go. Your mind stream is still holding on. Okay? We will be back with more maps and more things. Okay, Trump, lots of trees, lots of trees.